collected my daughter Law's coat from the dry cleaner. The shop owner, an old associate, drew me aside and murmured to me, "Take your grandkids and leave before dawn." Stunned, I asked, "Why?" He produced a bag and said, "I found this in your daughter-in-law's coat." When I looked inside, I froze. This isn't just a story about betrayal. It's about the chilling moment I discovered my own daughter-in-law was planning to sell my grandchildren. Can you imagine the gut-wrenching horror when you realize the person you love like a daughter is actually a monster, circling your innocent grandkids' faces with a red marker as if they were nothing more than merchandise? It all started innocently enough. The evening sun was still clinging to my skin as I walked home from the market, my basket heavy with groceries. The old street, with its peeling paint, felt like a familiar hug until I reached Arthur's dry cleaning. Chloe, my daughter-in-law, had pressed a wrinkled yellow claim ticket into my hand that morning, her voice soft but rushed. "Mom, please pick up the wool coat. I have meetings all day." Just another errand, I thought, like so many I did for my children. Inside, the usual scent of fabric softener and steam filled the air. Arthur, an old man with glasses perched on his nose, was behind the counter. He took the ticket and, instead of sending his young assistant, disappeared into the back himself, moving slower than usual, almost as if he was buying time. I waited, stroking my basket handle, my mind on dinner for my grandchildren. He returned with Chloe's coat, wrapped in clear plastic. But he didn't hand it over. Instead, he scanned the empty shop, then his rough, calloused hand gripped my arm hard. "Eleanor," he murmured, his voice a hoarse whisper. "Come here for a moment." Before I could even react, he pulled me behind a tattered curtain at the back of the shop. The air grew thick with bleach and steam, piles of clothes forming a messy wall around us. "You need to see this," he said, his voice trembling as he opened a rickety drawer. From it, he pulled out a small, clear plastic bag. My heart literally stopped. Inside was a bank transfer receipt, stamped in red, with a figure so enormous I had to blink several times to believe it. Millions of dollars. Who keeps something like that in a coat pocket? And next to the paper, a photograph. My Sophia and Leo. Their innocent faces circled in red marker. Crooked, angry circles, drawn with a dark, chilling intention. The blood in my veins turned to ice. My hands were stone cold. "Arthur, what is this?" I stammered, my voice breaking. He shook his head, his eyes wide with fear. "Eleanor, you have to get the children out of here. Immediately. Don't waste a second. You must be gone before sunrise." His voice was harsh, pleading. I wanted to scream for an explanation, but he just shoved the bag into my hand, repeating, "I can't keep this here. It's too terrifying." I took the coat, my hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. I tucked that horrifying bag deep into my pocket, feeling like I was carrying a bomb about to explode. Leaving his shop, my steps were uncertain, as if the ground had vanished beneath my feet. My basket tipped, tomatoes rolling out, but I didn't care. The world outside continued its noisy rhythm. Buses, street vendors, children's laughter. But in my head, only Arthur's voice echoed, a funeral bell tolling, before sunrise. The sky darkened, dusk swallowed by the thick night. I entered the house, my feet heavy as lead. The zip-top bag, holding its terrifying secret, burned in my pocket like a curse. This large house, usually filled with Sophia and Leo's laughter, was frozen in an icy silence. Ben, my son, was hundreds of miles away on a business trip. It was just me, my two small grandchildren, and the terrifying emptiness Chloe had left behind. My phone vibrated. A short message from her, "Mom, unexpected meeting. Very late. Please take care of the kids." A nameless anxiety coiled in my chest. Was it true or an excuse? I walked into the living room. Sophia, my 7-year-old with big round eyes, was carefully building a block house. "Grandma, look. My house has a chimney," she shouted, her voice like bells. Leo, only 4, hugged his plastic dinosaur, humming a wordless song. Seeing them, my heart clenched. Hours ago, I thought they were safe. Now, the image of those 2 red circles haunted me, a lurking, invisible threat. I forced a smile, stroking Sophia's head. It's beautiful, my love. Rest. Grandma will make dinner. But my mind was spinning. Arthur's voice wouldn't stop. You have to leave before sunrise. I didn't know what I was running from, but my instincts as a mother and a grandmother screamed that these children couldn't stay here another minute. I locked myself in my bedroom and, with a trembling hand, dialed Grace, a nurse friend I trusted completely. We'd been through so much, from raising our kids to endless hospital nights with my husband. If anyone could help, it was her. Hello, Grace? It's Eleanor, I whispered, my voice cracking. I need your help. Do you know a reliable taxi? One that can make a long trip tonight. Grace paused, sensing my distress. Eleanor, what's wrong? Why the rush? I took a deep breath, fighting tears. I can't explain now. Just a cab, as soon as possible. She didn't press. I'll call my brother. He's a driver. Very discreet. Give me 10 minutes. My heart was in a knot when I hung up. In the kitchen, my hands moved quickly. Bread, cheese, cookies for the kids. 2 water bottles. What else? I didn't know where we were going, only that my grandchildren couldn't be hungry or helpless. I glanced at Sophia and Leo in the living room, building a bridge. Their laughter felt like knives in my chest. So innocent, so carefree, utterly oblivious to the storm about to break. Was I wrong? Was it a misunderstanding? Then the red circles flashed in my mind, and I knew I had no other choice. I ran to their room, grabbed Sophia's blue sweater, Leo's superhero pajamas, socks, Sophia's yarn doll, Leo's toy car. Everything went into a large suitcase, messy, but there was no time to organize. The streetlight flickered through the window, making my heart pound. I drew the curtains. This town was small. Everyone knew everything. I didn't want questions. My phone vibrated. Grace's text, taxi is here. Corner. My brother's mic. Trust him. I took a deep breath. Went to the living room, knelt beside Sophia. Let's go, my love, I whispered, forcing the sweetest voice I could. Put on your coat. We're going for a night ride. Her eyes widened. Where to, Grandma? I smiled, a wreck inside. To a very fun place. But we have to leave now or it will be too late. Leo mumbled, sleepy, Grandma. I pulled out a candy. Here, be a good boy. You can sleep later. He grinned, forgotten his tiredness. I picked him up, took Sophia's hand, and rushed towards the taxi. The hallway felt endless. My sandals dragged on the cold floor. In the back seat, I buckled them in. Sophia hugged her doll, curious but trusting. Leo yawned, resting his head on his sister's shoulder. I sat beside them, clutching the suitcase, my heart heavy. The driver, a tired-faced man, watched me in the rearview mirror. Where are you headed at this hour, ma'am? He asked, concerned. I swallowed. Hard. To the bus station, please. As fast as you can. The car started, breaking the stillness of the night. Through the window, I watched the house recede, sinking into darkness like a tomb, holding secrets and betrayals. Midnight at the bus station was a chaotic market of neon lights, vendor calls, bus horns, and rolling suitcases. Yet, that very chaos made me feel safer, as if my grandchildren and I could disappear in the crowd. I held Sophia's hand tight. Leo slept on my shoulder, his warm breath a constant reminder to stay strong. At the ticket counter, I tried to sound calm. 3 tickets to Charleston. The last trip. The agent, a man with a messy mustache, slid them through. Leaving immediately. Get on quick. I nodded, paid, and turned to Sophia. We're visiting a distant relative. We'll have a great time. She nodded, though her big eyes reflected curiosity. Which relative, Grandma? Do I know them? I stroked her head, avoiding her gaze. An old family member. You haven't met them. Get some sleep. It's a long ride. The bus pulled away, its engine roaring. Charleston. My home more than 20 years ago. Where Ben was born, where I once felt safe. Now, I just hoped it would be a refuge. But deep down, I knew I wasn't just running. I was searching for a truth I didn't dare to name. By dawn, we were in Charleston. The pale light filtered through old rooftops. I carried Leo, led Sophia to a small motel. The room was cramped, damp-smelling with faded sheets. I tucked them into bed. Sophia murmured in her sleep, "Grandma, where's Mommy?" That question pierced me like a dagger. I stroked her head. "Sleep, sweetie. Mommy's busy. She'll be here." But I knew it was a lie. Chloe, the daughter-in-law I once loved, was now an enigma, a dark shadow. I sat by the window, hands clasped, mind racing. The plastic bag in my coat pocket, heavy as a curse. The transfer receipt, the photo, Arthur's warning. Pieces of a puzzle I couldn't solve. Ben was so far away. I wanted to call him, tell him everything. But what if I was wrong? I'd destroy his family. But what if I was right? How could I tell him the woman he loved, the mother of his children, was betraying us all? Then an idea sparked. Father Michael, the elderly priest in Charleston, who'd been with me when my husband died. If anyone could help, it was him. That morning, I would take the children to Mass. The next day, I woke Sophia and Leo. "Come to church, and I'll buy you ice cream." I faked cheerfulness. Leo got excited. "Chocolate, Grandma." I smiled, my worry still churning. At St. Francis Church, the ancient stone walls and ringing bells offered a rare calm. Sophia held my hand. Leo ran ahead, his toy car dangling. All I prayed for was to preserve their innocence. Father Michael recognized me immediately. "Eleanor, it's been too long. What are you doing here with your grandchildren? Is something wrong?" I just nodded, unable to speak in front of the children. After Mass, I let Sophia and Leo play in the churchyard. In a small, quiet room behind the altar, the scent of old wood and wax helped me breathe. I gathered my courage and told him everything: Chloe's coat, the massive transfer, the photo of Sophia and Leo with those terrifying red circles. I handed him the plastic bag, my hand shaking. Father Michael was silent for a long time, hands clasped, his face growing harder. Finally, he sighed. "Eleanor, this is beyond a priest. This isn't just family. This is a much greater danger. You need someone who understands the law." He paused, looking at me with deep concern. "I know someone. Victoria. A very good lawyer, a parishioner. She'll know what to do." A ray of hope pierced the darkness. That afternoon, in the small confessional, I met Victoria. Young, maybe 30, with sharp eyes that seemed to see everything. Wearing latex gloves, she carefully opened the bag. "This transaction code belongs to a ghost company registered through an offshore account," she said, her fingers flying on her laptop. "A non-existent company." She pointed to the last line, signed by Julian Cortez. The name meant nothing to me, but Victoria and Father Michael exchanged a meaningful glance. "That man has been involved in financial fraud and money laundering," Victoria said, her voice low. "This is not simple, Eleanor." My hands on the wooden table began to tremble. "But why my grandchildren?" I asked, my voice breaking. "Why are their faces marked in red?" Victoria didn't answer right away. She just looked at me with compassion. "We need to investigate more," she said finally. "But first, you and the children must stay here, where you'll be safe. I will contact trusted colleagues." Father Michael placed his hand on my shoulder, soft but firm. "God will protect you and your grandchildren. But you must be strong for them." I hugged Sophia and Leo as we left the church, the bells ringing behind us, a reminder that I was no longer alone. The next day, I found myself in front of a motel door in Charleston, my heart on fire. Sophia and Leo were playing in Grace's yard. Through the wooden fence, I watched them. Sophia was teaching Leo how to blow soap bubbles, their crystal-clear laughter filling the sunny morning. I smiled, but the smile felt heavy, every second stolen. "Grace, can you watch the kids for a day?" I asked, trying to stay calm. "I have to go back to my town to sort out some important personal matters." Grace, her sharp eyes seeming to ask more, just nodded. "Don't worry, Eleanor. The children will be fine. I'll make them pudding and tell them stories." I squeezed her hand, saying nothing, but with infinite gratitude. I took the first bus back to town, huddled in a back seat, the plastic bag still in my coat pocket, a constant reminder of the terrifying secret. The dry cornfields, dilapidated houses, blurred past the window. I saw nothing but the 2 red circles on Sophia and Leo's photo. Was I doing the right thing, leaving the children behind to return to this dangerous place? But I knew, to protect them, I had to uncover the truth, no matter how cruel. The family house appeared as the bus pulled into the last stop. Silent. Cold. No longer the home Ben and I had built. Now it felt like a crime scene. I took the spare key from my purse, my hand trembling as I opened the gate. The squeak of hinges echoed in the silence. I went inside, locked the door, feeling like I was crossing into another world where everything I believed could crumble. The living room was exactly as I'd left it. Chloe's blanket on the sofa, a half-drunk cup of coffee. I stood there, searching for a sign, a clue. But the air was heavy, as if even the walls kept secrets. I went straight to Ben and Chloe's room. Under the closet, the small gray safe was there, motionless. I remembered Ben's birthday months ago, when Chloe, giggling, had blurted out the combination, May 12th, 2018, their wedding day. I'd just laughed. Now, that sequence was the key. I knelt, dragging the dusty safe out. My hands shook as I turned each number. 1-2-0-5-1-8. The dry click echoed like a gunshot. I opened the heavy door, breathing heavily. Inside, stacks of dollar bills neatly piled. Tens, maybe hundreds of thousands. A sum my family had never dreamed of. Next to them, fake passports and IDs with unfamiliar names. Maria Gonzalez, Juan Alvarez, Sofia Morales. I flipped through them, my heart pounding as if reading a list of ghosts. In a corner, 2 sealed cell phones. But what took my breath away were the papers at the bottom. 3 business-class plane tickets from Chicago to Madrid. In the names of Chloe, Sophia, and Leo. Ben's name was not there. I checked them again and again, hoping I was mistaken. But the cold truth was a knife piercing my chest. Chloe was planning to escape, to take my grandchildren, and leave my son behind like an obstacle. I pulled out one more envelope, hands trembling. Inside, a photo, Chloe, smiling radiantly next to an elegant, unknown man in a black suit. On the back, handwritten, My Cortez. That name, Julian Cortez. It matched the signature on the transfer receipt. The room began to spin. The air grew thick. I struggled to breathe. I sat on the floor, back against the dresser, the photo falling from my hands. Chloe, the daughter-in-law I had loved like a daughter. The one who cooked with me, who hugged me crying when Ben had trouble. That woman was betraying us. Not only Ben, but she was planning to take my 2 grandchildren as if they were part of a deal. I thought of Sophia, her innocent smile, drawing pictures for me. Of Leo, hugging my legs when I baked. How could she be so cruel? How could she circle their little faces with a red marker as if they were merchandise? At that moment, Mr. Henderson's truck rumbled down the street. I jumped. Hurriedly, I put everything back in the safe, trying to leave it as it was. My hands shook so much I dropped a passport, but I snatched it up. Pushed the safe back into place, closed it. My heart pounded like a guilty person's. I stood up, wiped sweat from my forehead, and tried to calm down. Heading for the door, I spotted a torn envelope in the kitchen trash with a foreign bank logo. Instinctively, I took it, shoved it into my jacket pocket. When the door slammed shut, I walked out onto the street as if floating. I knew I wasn't just running. In my pocket, I carried the proof of a terrible plan. Chloe planned to escape with Cortez, taking a fortune, abandoning Ben, and worst of all, taking my 2 grandchildren with them as part of the deal. I returned to the motel in Charleston, my legs heavy as lead, the horrible evidence still in my pocket. It was midday. Dim sunlight filtered through the curtains. Sophia and Leo had just woken from their nap, rubbing their eyes. Sophia, her hair tangled, looked up. "Grandma, when are we going home to Mommy?" A knife in my chest. I knelt, stroked her hair, forcing a smile. "Soon, my love. Your mom is busy. Stay with me a few more days, okay?" My throat closed up. Leo, hugging his dinosaur, interrupted. "Grandma, I want cookies." I gave him a pack, hiding my trembling hands. I took them to the motel's small courtyard where there was an old swing set. "Play for a while. I'll watch you from here," I told them, trying to sound calm. But inside, I was on the edge of a cliff. The money, Fake passports, plane tickets, Chloe's photo with Cortez. It tormented me. I couldn't stay here forever, couldn't keep running. But how could I protect my grandchildren if their own mother was part of this nightmare? Later that afternoon, Victoria arrived. Her steps were quick, her eyes reflecting concern. Two men in plain clothes, federal agents, were with her. "Ma'am, I'm Agent Miller," one said, grave and firm. "This is my partner, Agent Davis. We need to see everything you found." I nodded and led them to the cramped room, where the small wooden table became the center of this terrible truth. I spread everything out: the massive transfer receipt, the bank envelope, the photo of Chloe and Cortez, the 3 plane tickets to Madrid, the stack of fake passports. Each object was a new stab, a fresh reminder of Chloe's betrayal. Agent Davis took a sealed cell phone, connected it to a device. His laptop screen lit up with lines of code. "We can recover deleted data," he said without looking up. "These things usually hold more information." I sat, hands clasped, heart pounding. Outside, Sophia and Leo played, their laughter reaching me, but I didn't dare to look. I felt that if I lost control for even a second, the pain suffocating me would erupt. After tense minutes, Davis turned the screen. A photo folder. The first image was Sophia and Leo. Their innocent faces circled in red marker, distorted with cruel intention. I held my breath. "Ma'am, this isn't a personal mark," Agent Miller said, his voice lowered, trying to prevent me from breaking. "It's a symbol used in human trafficking networks." Trafficking. The word was a thunderclap. I was paralyzed. He enlarged the image, showed tiny numbers in the corner. "It's a transaction code. The red circle means target selected. The children are part of a much larger plan." Instinctively, I wanted to hug my grandchildren, even though they were outside. My eyes filled with tears, but I refused to cry. Not in front of them. "You mean they plan to sell my grandchildren?" I asked, my voice barely audible, trembling. Miller nodded, his look full of compassion. "We don't know the whole plan yet, but this evidence points to an organized criminal network. And the woman in this photo," he pointed to Chloe, "most likely an accomplice." Victoria placed a hand on my shoulder, her voice trembling too. "Eleanor, this is no longer a family matter. It's an extremely serious criminal case. We're going to do everything we can to protect the children." But her words couldn't calm the storm. "Chloe, my daughter-in-law, the one who was with me when Leo was born, who shared laughter on so many family nights. How could she be so cruel? How could she turn her own blood into targets for a dirty business?" Davis continued typing, retrieving deleted messages. One appeared, short, cold, 2 targets selected. In short, timely delivery. Sent from Chloe's number to an unknown number. Signed, JC. Julian Cortez. My blood froze. She really did this," I murmured, not knowing who I was talking to. Victoria squeezed my hand. "Eleanor, I know this hurts, but you have to be strong for the children." They told me to stay calm, to act as if nothing was wrong. "Do not communicate with Chloe," Miller said firmly. "She must not know what you've discovered. We need time to investigate." I nodded, my heart a tangled mess. How could I pretend to be normal when every breath carried the pain of betrayal? How could I look into Sophia and Leo's eyes knowing their mother planned to sell them? I brought the children back to the room, trying to play with them. "Grandma, tell the story about the vampire," Leo insisted, climbing onto my lap. I hugged him, told the story he loved, but my voice broke, as if I myself were lost in a nightmare. Sophia drew with colored pencils. I looked at them, my chest aching as if being torn apart. Carefree innocent, oblivious to the fact their world had been on the verge of being shattered by the mother they loved. Outside, black clouds gathered and a sudden downpour began. The rain beat hard on the motel's tin roof, mirroring the chaos in my chest. I drew the curtains, hugged the children, trying to protect them from the storm outside and the storm within me. The next morning, a black car, no license plate, no lights, pulled up. A federal police vehicle. Victoria had called earlier. "Eleanor, today we're going to plan everything." I quickly dressed, woke the children, asked them to stay with Grace for one more day. "Where are you going, Grandma?" Sophia asked, those big, curious eyes. I stroked her head, forcing a smile. I'm going to see an old friend. I'll be back this afternoon. Leo, nibbling a cookie, nodded without asking. I kissed them and got into the car, my heart as heavy as if carrying the whole world. The federal police office was hidden on a narrow street, no sign. I went in and was led to a small meeting room. Victoria was waiting, seated at a long table. Across from her, Miller, Davis, and a female officer named Hayes, whose gaze was both stern and gentle. Eleanor, we've reviewed the evidence, Miller began, his voice grave but sharp. This is a major case related to an international crime ring. We need your cooperation to capture Chloe and Cortez. They explained the plan: create a fake scene where Sophia and Leo had disappeared to make Chloe and Cortez panic and reveal their movements. We will monitor all communications, Hayes said, pointing to a city map. We've installed a listening device on Chloe's phone and are tracking Cortez's number. They will contact each other, and then we will have enough evidence. I listened, my heart tightening. And my grandchildren? I asked, my voice trembling, unable to hide my fear. Hayes put a hand on my shoulder, firm. Don't worry, we've arranged an absolutely safe shelter for the children. You will be able to video call them whenever you want. They took me to another room where a social worker was playing with Sophia and Leo, surrounded by toys. Sophia colored, Leo built with Legos, babbling a spaceship story. Seeing them, I felt like crying. They didn't know I was protecting them from their own mother. Eleanor, the children will stay here with me, the social worker said softly. I will take care of them as if they were my own. I nodded, hugged my 2 grandchildren tightly one last time before leaving, feeling like I was leaving a part of my heart behind. That night, I returned to the motel, sitting alone in the small room, phone in hand, waiting. Victoria and Davis were with me. The listening device on the table, the laptop screen glowing with monitored messages. My phone vibrated. A message from Chloe, desperate. Mom, where are you? Have you seen the kids? They're gone. I've called the police. I'm scared to death. I read it, my heart clenching. How could she fake it like that? How could she write those words when she herself had planned to take my grandchildren? Davis motioned for me not to answer. Let her get tangled up on her own, he murmured. Half an hour later, Chloe's phone called an unknown number. The listening device activated. Her voice came through the speaker, nervous, trembling. Cortez, the children are gone. I had everything ready, but I can't find them anywhere. The man's voice, hoarse and annoyed, replied, Calm down. We can't back out now. The plane tickets are already bought. The buyer is waiting. If we don't have the merchandise, we'll be in big trouble. Merchandise. The word was a knife twisting in my skin. I clenched my fist, nails digging into my palm, fighting back tears. Sophia and Leo, my 2 little angels, being called merchandise. I wanted to scream. I wanted to confront Chloe. But Davis motioned for me to be quiet, his gaze cold. The call ended, but Chloe continued messaging Cortez. If we don't find the children, the whole plan will fall apart. You have to do something. Davis gave a cold smile. Let it fall apart. That's how it should be, he said gravely. This confession will be irrefutable evidence at trial. Victoria took my hand, squeezing it gently as if sharing my pain. Eleanor, we're almost done with this. I stayed there, cold hands clasped, feeling both a deep fear and a strange relief. Relief, because I knew Chloe and Cortez were digging their own graves. But the pain still crushed my chest. I thought of Chloe, the shy young woman who had just joined the family, kneading bread with me in the kitchen, sharing her dreams of a small shop. I loved her. I thought she was family. Now, every memory was a wound that opened wider each time I recalled it. Outside the window, the night was thick, starless. I heard the soft murmur of several unlit car engines parked silently on the street corner. Like beasts waiting, patiently biding their time. I looked at Victoria, then at Davis, feeling like I was entering a chess game whose end I didn't know. Eleanor, you did the right thing, Victoria said, low but firm. You saved your grandchildren. I nodded. But inside, a doubt began to grow. Had I really saved them, or was I just dragging them into a new nightmare? That night, darkness covered Charleston like a thick veil. I sat inside a federal police command vehicle, 2 blocks from a cheap hotel. The air was heavy with engine oil and cold coffee. Victoria was beside me, her gaze hard, her hands clasped tightly. Officer Hayes, who had reassured me earlier, adjusted the radio, her voice deep but clear. "Eleanor, you just stay here and listen. We'll handle everything." But how could I be calm when my heart was beating so hard it felt like it would burst? Sophia and Leo were safe, but the mere thought of witnessing Chloe's betrayal made me tremble. Over the radio, sharp commands, like knives: Alpha Team, position on the northeast corner. Bravo Team, control the rear exit. Target is heading to the meeting point. I clenched my hands, digging my nails into my palms, trying not to show my fear. Victoria placed a hand on my shoulder. "Eleanor, it will all be over tonight. You did the right thing by getting the children out." I nodded, but tears streamed silently down my cheeks. The right thing? What had I done besides run away and ask for help? Yet, deep down, I knew I had no other choice. I had to protect my grandchildren, even if the price was facing the heart-wrenching truth about the daughter-in-law I once loved. Hayes turned on the live feed from the listening device. Chloe's voice echoed, shaky and fast. "Cortez, I don't understand. Where are those two? Without them, what are we going to deliver in the deal?" Every word cut me like a knife. Deal. That word made me want to scream, to slap her. How could she refer to Sophia and Leo, her own children, as merchandise? Cortez's hoarse, rough voice replied, "Shut up. First, let's go to the hotel. The intermediary is already waiting there. If we don't bring the merchandise, we're finished." I held my breath. Asterisk intermediary. Merchandise, asterisk needles in my chest. This wasn't just family betrayal, it was monstrous crime. Hayes whispered into the radio. "Target has entered the parking lot. Prepare to move in." Through the mic, I heard a dull thud of a car door, then rapid footsteps on concrete. I imagined Chloe and Cortez, 2 tense figures moving towards the empty parking lot, unaware they were walking straight into a police trap. Suddenly, a firm shout tore through the quiet. "Federal police, hands up." Thunder of running boots, click of flashlights, then Chloe's sharp scream, piercing the night. "No, it can't be," she cried, her voice filled with terror. Over the radio, sounds of struggle. "Cortez, run." Chloe yelled, but immediately an officer ordered freeze. "Put your hands up or I'll shoot." A thud. Cortez's body hitting the ground next to a white van. "Don't move," another voice commanded. The metallic click of handcuffs. Chloe was crying, her voice in pieces. "You're mistaken. I didn't do anything." Then I heard her purse fall, stacks of money spilling out. The cold voice of an officer, "Do you have anything else to say?" Sitting in the car, I couldn't hold back anymore. Tears streamed silently. I didn't know if it was relief that the trap had worked, or pain from facing the truth that Chloe, whom I had considered a daughter, was willing to sell my 2 grandchildren. Victoria took my hand, squeezing it tight. "Eleanor, they've got them. The children are safe," she said, her voice trembling. But the pain inside me did not subside. I thought of those nights when Chloe would sit with me, laughing, sharing small dreams. I believed her. I loved her. I thought she was part of the family. Now, all that was left was a ghost. Someone who had wanted to destroy everything. A voice came over the radio, brief but authoritative. "Both targets secured. Operation successful. No casualties." Outside, sirens wailed. Red and blue lights spun, reflecting off the old hotel walls. Patrol car engines started, voices gave orders, hurried footsteps. The night seemed torn apart by chaos, but for me, it was the sign that the net of fate had finally closed. A few weeks later, I sat in the federal courthouse in Charleston. The air was heavy, thick with unspoken secrets. The benches were filled with neighbors and a few reporters, their gazes sharp. I held Sophia and Leo tightly. They snuggled against me, as if sensing the tension. Victoria was beside me, rubbing my back, whispering, "Eleanor, it will all be over today. You have been very brave." But how could I feel strong when my heart was in pieces? The truth about Chloe, about her terrible plan, was about to come to light, and I knew it would leave scars impossible to erase on me and my grandchildren. Chloe appeared in the defendant's box, wearing a beige prison jumpsuit. Her hair tangled, no trace of the radiant daughter-in-law I had known. Her face gaunt, aged 10 years, her eyes sunken, as if her guilt haunted her. Beside her, Cortez trembled, hands cuffed, head down. Seeing him, I didn't know what to feel: rage, pain, or just a cold emptiness. I had loved Chloe. I believed she was family. I even defended her in arguments with Ben. But now she was just a stranger, a woman who had tried to sell my grandchildren. The prosecutor, a middle-aged man with a firm voice, stood up. "Your Honor, we are trying a particularly serious case related to money laundering, conspiracy to kidnap children, and participation in a transnational criminal organization." He presented the evidence, one by one, each piece another stab in my heart. The massive transfer receipt on the big screen, the red numbers making the room murmur. Then fake passports, strange names hinting at the criminal network. 3 plane tickets to Madrid, only for Chloe, Sophia, and Leo, projected, making me squeeze my grandchildren's hands tightly so they wouldn't notice my trembling. But what made the room erupt was the photo of Sophia and Leo with those crooked red circles. Some women gasped, "How horrible!" The murmur grew into a wave of indignation and horror. I immediately pulled Sophia and Leo close, covering their eyes. "Grandma, what is that?" Sophia whispered innocently. I stroked her head, my voice broken. "Nothing, sweetie. It's just an old photo." Inside, I wanted to scream, to cry until I was empty. How could I explain that their own mother had marked them as targets for a criminal enterprise? The prosecutor continued, his voice growing sharper, presenting the recording of the phone call that changed everything. Chloe's voice filled the room, desperate but icy. "Cortez, the children are gone. Without them, what are we going to negotiate with?" Cortez's voice responded curtly. "First, go to the hotel. The intermediary is waiting." The entire room fell silent. Only Chloe's ragged breathing could be heard. I heard every word as if branded into my mind. Every phrase was a knife, shattering the memories of the days I believed she was family. Chloe's defense attorney tried to save her. "Your Honor, my client is a victim, manipulated by Julian Cortez. She was unaware of the trafficking network and had no intention of harming her children." But the prosecutor immediately retorted, his voice sharp as a razor. "In the recording, the defendant herself says she needed the children to negotiate. That is the act of an accomplice, not a victim." He pointed to the screen where the tape replayed, Chloe's words echoing like an undeniable confession. Cortez remained silent, head bowed, accepting his fate. When the judge's gavel struck, the room froze. The defendants, Chloe Lopez and Julian Cortez, are sentenced to lengthy prison terms for money laundering, conspiracy to kidnap children, and participation in a transnational criminal organization. The judge's voice was deep and firm. The room erupted in comments, some shaking their heads in disgust, others whispering in horror. I sat there, squeezing Victoria's hand, breathing a sigh of relief, but with a bitter knot in my throat. Justice had been served, but it couldn't erase the pain. Sophia tugged at my blouse, her voice very quiet. "Grandma, where's Mommy?" The girl's question pierced me like a knife. I hugged her tightly, unable to answer. How could I tell her that her mother, whom she loved, was being led away in handcuffs? Leo, sitting beside her, looked up with wide eyes. "Did Mommy go on a work trip, Grandma?" I just nodded, silent tears falling. "Yes, she's very busy. But Grandma and your dad will always be here with you, okay?" They both nodded, but I knew this truth would remain an eternal scar on their hearts. When we left the courthouse, the scorching midday sun beat down. People dispersed, their laughter and conversations mixing with traffic. But for me, everything seemed to fade away. Victoria took my hand and said softly, "Eleanor, you saved the children. You are their hero." I smiled weakly. But inside, I didn't feel like a hero. I was just a grandmother, a mother, trying to protect what little was left of my family. The truth, however cruel, had finally come to light. Several months have passed since the trial, and my two grandchildren's lives, and mine, have slowly found a new rhythm in Charleston. I rented a small apartment near the central square, where every morning the church bells ring, clear as a peaceful melody, pulling me out of nightmares about Chloe and Cortez. The apartment isn't large, just a small living room, a kitchen nook, and two narrow bedrooms. But for me, it's a sanctuary, a new home for Sophia and Leo. Every morning, I wake up early and make breakfast. An egg sandwich for Leo, cookies, and milk for Sophia. I comb Sophia's hair, straighten Leo's uniform, and walk them to the elementary school near St. Francis Church. Seeing them run into the classroom, waving at me with radiant smiles, I feel a spark of hope sneak into my heart, even though the pain still burns like an open wound. One afternoon, while watering chrysanthemums on the balcony, a yellow taxi stopped. The door opened and Ben got out, a travel bag over his shoulder, his shirt wrinkled from the long journey from Denver. My son was visibly thinner, his face gaunt, his eyes sunken, as if carrying a story too heavy to bear. I dropped the watering can, water splashing, and ran to hug him. "Ben, you're back," I exclaimed, my voice choked, holding him tightly as if fearing he would vanish, just like those peaceful days that were gone. Ben hugged me back, then knelt and opened his arms as Sophia and Leo ran from inside, shouting excitedly, "Daddy! Daddy!" They threw themselves into his arms with laughter. And in that moment, I saw Ben's eyes light up, if only for a second. That night, the four of us sat around the small kitchen table. I made the chili Ben loved since childhood, its aroma filling the house with warmth. Sophia told stories from school, Leo showed off a drawing his teacher had praised. But the atmosphere was heavy, as if we all knew there was an unspoken topic, something that had to be said. After clearing the dishes, I sent the children to their room to play with puzzles and sat across from Ben. "Son, I have to tell you everything," I said, my voice gray, clasping my hands to stop them from shaking. I began to speak slowly, from that afternoon at Arthur's Dry Cleaners, the plastic bag, the transfer receipt, the photo of Sophia and Leo marked with a red circle. I told him about the overnight bus ride, the safe under the dresser, the plane tickets to Madrid without his name, and the trial where the atrocious truth about Chloe and Cortez was revealed. Every word was like a stab, not just for me, but for Ben's heart. He remained silent, running his fingers through his messy hair, his eyes red. And when I told him the part where Chloe called the children merchandise to negotiate with, Ben slammed his hand on the table. "Enough, Mom," he said, his voice breaking. He stood up, pacing the small room, as if he couldn't bear the weight of the truth. "Mom, the truth is I've suspected Chloe for a while now," Ben said, his voice full of anguish. "She used to leave early and come back late. She'd hide her phone. Suddenly, large sums of money would disappear. I'd ask her, but she always said it was for work. I didn't want to believe she could do something wrong. I thought I was protecting the family, but it turns out I was just a fool." He stopped, turned away, his shoulders shaking. I stood up, took my son's trembling hand, saying nothing, just silently sharing his pain. I knew Ben's suffering wasn't just from his wife's betrayal, but also from the helplessness of not being able to protect his two children. Sophia and Leo came out of their room silently, as if sensing the tension. Sophia hugged her yarn doll and asked quietly, "Grandma, is Daddy sad?" I nodded, pulling her closer and putting another piece of meat in her bowl. "Daddy is just tired from the trip. Eat up." Leo joined in, innocent. "Daddy, can we play with Legos tomorrow?" Ben smiled weakly, stroked his head. "Yes, we'll play tomorrow." But I knew that smile was nothing more than a mask to hide his broken heart. After dinner, when the children were in their room, Ben sat next to me and said firmly, "Mom, I'm filing for divorce. I'm going to get full custody of the children, and with you, I'm going to build a new life for them." I looked at him and saw a determination I hadn't seen in a long time. "Are you sure, Ben?" I asked, my voice trembling. He nodded, squeezing my hand. "I can't forgive her, Mom. It's not for me. It's for Sophia and Leo. They deserve a safe life, and I will do everything to make them happy." I nodded, tears in my eyes. At last, my son had found the courage to face the truth, even though it hurt so much. That night, I stood on the balcony, looking at the dimly lit street. The yellow light from the lampposts cast flickering shadows. From inside, Ben's voice reading stories to the children mixed with their pure laughter. And then the teddy bear said, "I'm not afraid of the dark anymore." Ben read. And I heard Leo exclaim, "What a brave teddy bear." The sound of turning pages added to the atmosphere, bringing a fragile but priceless peace. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and felt a little warmth return to my heart. Time passed quietly. The small apartment truly became a home, where little by little, the wounds of 3 generations began to heal. The court had already made its final ruling, granting full custody of Sophia and Leo to Ben and me. Hearing the news, I sat on the sofa, clutching a hot cup of tea, feeling as if the heavy weight that had been crushing my chest was finally lifted. Every Sunday morning, I took Sophia and Leo to the nearby park. The bells of St. Francis Church rang, mingling with the singing of birds. Ben, who now had a stable job in Charleston, would play football with Leo on the green grass. The boy, with his short legs, would run after the ball, smiling from ear to ear. "Dad, kick it hard." Meanwhile, Sophia would happily ride her tricycle around the fountain, her high ponytail waving in the wind. I sat on a bench, savoring coffee, watching them play under the sun. The light filtered through the leaves, scattering golden flecks on the ground, and in that moment, I felt a peace I had never felt before, as if the storm had passed, and the sky was finally clear again. One afternoon, the whole family went to the market in the central square. The air was filled with the aroma of grilled hot dogs and fresh fruit. Sophia, her eyes shining, chose an old comic book, eagerly flipping through pages. "Grandma, this one has a princess who rides a dragon," she exclaimed. I smiled, stroked her head. "You chose well. I'll read it to you tonight." Leo insisted on a superhero-shaped balloon, pulling on Ben's shirt. "Dad, buy it for me. Superheroes fly really high." Ben laughed, pulled out his wallet. I quietly chose the freshest vegetables, bright red tomatoes, and a bag of corn for chili. These simple moments, like small pieces of a puzzle, were slowly putting the family that seemed to have been broken back together. In the apartment, I taped Sophia's and Leo's clumsy drawings to the living room wall. There was one with 4 people, me, Ben, Sophia, and Leo, holding hands under a red roof with a big sun and white clouds. Sophia pointed to it, proud. "This is our house, Grandma." I chose the red roof because it's my favorite color. I looked at the picture with a soft smile, but felt a lump in my throat. Their mother wasn't in the drawing. I knew that no matter how hard I tried, that emptiness would always be there. I just hoped Ben's love and mine would be enough to fill a little of that void in their hearts. Sometimes I would see Chloe's picture in the newspapers, usually in short articles about the case, accompanied by a photo where she looked gaunt and lifeless behind bars. Every time, I'd hide the paper, burying it at the bottom of the trash, not wanting Sophia or Leo to see it. They were too young to understand, and I didn't want their pure smiles stained by a cruel truth about their mother. But I knew that one day I would have to tell them. I would have to explain why she was no longer there. That thought made me shudder. But I repeated to myself that when the time came, I would find a way for them to understand without that pain destroying them. At night, when Sophia and Leo were fast asleep, I would sit at the kitchen table and open the old journal I had started writing in my first days in Charleston. My hand, now less shaky, would glide over the pages, leaving these words, asterisk today, Sophia drew a family. She doesn't know that this red roof is all we have. But I will do whatever it takes to make sure it always stands strong. They will grow up surrounded by love and truth, not lies or fear. And never again will anyone dare to use a red pen to mark their faces. Asterisk, I closed the notebook. I turned off the light, leaving only the sound of my 2 little angels' quiet breathing in the next room, and the soft murmur of the night wind coming through the window. Sometimes in my dreams, I still see Chloe's image. Not the one from the courtroom, but the young woman who one day timidly entered my house with a bouquet of daisies and a nervous smile. I wake up and the tears fall silently, not out of nostalgia, but from the pain of a betrayed trust. But then I hear Sophia calling me cheerfully from the living room or Leo's mischievous laughter as he plays with his dad. And I know I can't let the past drag me back down. I wipe my tears. I get up and prepare a new day for my little family. One night, after reading a story to my 2 grandchildren, Ben stayed with me in the living room. "Mom, I found a study job here," he said, his voice deep but firm. "I want to stay in Charleston. Raise the kids with you. We'll make it, right?" I looked at my son and saw in his eyes a determination I hadn't seen since he was a boy. "Of course we will, son," I replied, taking his hand. "We'll make it because we have each other." Ben smiled. And for the first time in many months, that smile was no longer heavy with burdens. In the darkness, as the streetlight filtered through the slits in the curtains, I understood that my family, after the storm, had truly been reborn. It was a painful rebirth, built on the broken pieces of trust and love, but it was full of hope. I got up, went out onto the balcony, and looked at the quiet street. The church bells rang in the distance, like a reminder that no matter how cruel the past had been, we, me, Ben, Sophia, and Leo, would keep moving forward, with love as a beacon lighting the way. In the depths of my heart, I understood that everything that happened wasn't just my family's tragedy, but also a warning to everyone. Sometimes, the person who hurts you is precisely the person you trusted the most. Naivety, blind faith, can become the open door for darkness to enter. But I also understood that the love and courage of a mother, of a grandmother, always have the strength to protect and guide. Learn to look closely at the strange signs. Don't close your eyes for fear of facing the truth. A family is only truly preserved when we have the courage to defend it with all our hearts and with firmness, even in the face of the most painful betrayal. I truly wonder if you were in my place, what would you do? Would you choose to remain silent to keep the peace, or would you fight, even if it meant shattering your own family? Tell me what you think. I really want to know.